What is going on, Bobcat fans? My name is Jordan Bowes. I am a face that you're not super familiar with, so I'll give you an introduction to myself here in just a moment. But I am here with two familiar faces for a brand new project that we're starting. Of course, to my right is the fantastic Director of Athletics here at Ohio University, Miss Julie Cromer.
Thank you, Jordan.
Sitting across from me is the effervescent Michael Schulze, who is another familiar face to everyone. He's been a member of a couple of different projects that we've had throughout the years. He is the associate athletic director for digital strategies and brand development. That is his official title. Gotta make sure we start things off officially. I will reintroduce myself again. I am Jordan Bowes. I am the assistant athletic director for broadcast and video services. Short version is I get paid to produce sports. That's the shortest version of it. That's the version that I always say to my relatives when they ask what I do. Is I get paid to watch sports. Is actually how I phrase it to them. But I produce sports. I'm in charge of all our ESPN Plus productions and any digital video productions that we put out. This podcast, the Bobcat Tracks podcast, hosted by Sam Hyman, the Paw Prince podcast, hosted by Sam Hyman, Luke Steiner, and the occasional guest Mike Schulze.
You've taken a step down.
Yeah. So just wanted to kind of wrap things up there, or put things in a nice little bow there. Introduce myself. This podcast is going to be, I think what we called it, or what we're going to call it, is an ongoing conversation between some of the administrative staff behind the scenes. You phrased it as the non-playing piece of the athletic department, and you, our fans, to kind of give you a little bit more access and behind the scenes conversations with our staff, and try and be a little bit more front facing with some of our admin staff. To give a different perspective on what's going on, not only here at Ohio Athletics, but the greater athletics landscape at large.
Yeah, we have some great people on staff in this department, and we talk a lot about our great coaches and student athletes, and more recently about the great students we have who work in each of your units and others. But we've got great folks, and so I think there's always interest in meeting them and engaging with them, and this will give us a platform to do that for those particularly who may not get to see us day to day in Athens. And it's also an opportunity from time to time for us to maybe share with folks what's going on, or at least how what's going on in a national or conference landscape will impact us directly. And so we're looking forward to it. Jordan, thank you for organizing this conversation.
Yeah, it's been a fun challenge to make sure that we cover what we need to cover and shift topics around a little bit to make sure that we're staying, a little bit more topical and current and up to date on things that we're talking about. But we've got a fantastic schedule for you here today. We'll start things off here in just a moment talking about a little bit of realignment news that has made the rounds in recent months, with in particular the Mid-American Conference. We're also going to be joined by Tim Doyle, who is the Associate Athletic Director for Marketing and Fan Engagement, talking about some of our game day improvements and the facilities that we occupy here on campus. And we're going to end things off with a quick Q&A session focused on getting some answers from you that our fans are dying to have answered. So
we don't want any fans dying.
No,
so we'll be
not
sure
at
to
all.
those today.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and start things off. Obviously, conference realignment is kind of a hot topic across the landscape of college football. You had big changes to the power conferences, and obviously the Pac-12 being kind of gutted and changing and reinventing itself now. But obviously, we want to talk about the conference that's near and dear to all of our hearts, the Mid-American Conference. It was just announced earlier this year that Northern Illinois will be leaving the conference starting in 2026. They're leaving the MAC for the second time. As of the time of recording, it's not entirely clear the manner in which they're leaving. They're obviously going football to the Mountain West. but the rest of the sports is kind of in the air right now. Am I
Is
correct
that a
in?
question mark?
Yeah,
I didn't want to interrupt you. I don't think they have announced a home for their Olympic sports and the basketballs. I don't think I've seen them. I think you're right.
What was the process like for the athletics directors um, with NIU going to the Mountain West?
Well, that's their decision to go, and so it's not necessarily that we, took a straw poll and they chose to leave the league. But I will say, based on what you hear about all of the other changes happening and how it's communicated or not communicated, the Mountain West was, I think, very transparent. I think the commissioner of their league has a good relationship with the commissioner of our league and reached out to say, we want to let you know that we're looking at, someone in your league. And so from my perspective, it wasn't a great surprise when NIU made their announcement because we had already heard, we had already been, I think, debriefed on 2 rounds of consideration, maybe when they were initially on the board for the Mountain West, and then as that started to escalate a few months later. And so we weren't surprised, but it's different than UMass coming in where the receiving conference votes. It wasn't as if there was a vote around the MAC table. NIU made their decision and, communicated it appropriately, and they'll work out the exit details with the commissioner. They continue to be engaged in conference business as well. They're an active member, through the next year, but it's a little different process. Somebody leaving versus somebody coming in.
So a follow up question to that, you talked about the '80s kind of being approached and the conference being approached about it. It felt like it just kind of came out of nowhere. So like when was that? If you feel comfortable saying, when was that process? When was that approach made?
It was in the fall, definitely in the fall. I do not remember the dates or what. The fall is a bit of a blur, Jordan, as you know. But
Oh yeah,
it was definitely in the back half of football season, and it was, and I will say also as important, it was before the news was released publicly.
Yeah,
which a lot of times things get out of order with that, and so but it was probably in the last quarter of the 2024 year.
because I mean, you might feel differently, but I remember I saw the report, which reports could be accurate or not accurate, but I saw the report on social media, and then within I think a day I saw the statement from NIU, and I was like, whoa, that seemed really fast.
No, there was a report, and then they had to wait for their board meeting. There was some notice for their board meeting, and then everyone knew that was coming. And so I maybe experienced it a little bit differently because we got alerts from the conference office. But I would say, as departures go, it was not in the same manner that we have at least heard through other reporting has happened in other conferences. And look, I think their ED has been pretty transparent about their process and the analysis that led to the move. And I don't, I can appreciate, based on the rationale he shared, the move they made was the move they felt was right for NIU. And it's very consistent with a philosophy that he had been describing in our meetings in the AD room. So I don't know if any of the other MAC ADs were tremendously surprised by the move or even the communication. And they're actually going back to, so we were teasing Schulze earlier about UMass but the last time NIU was had football in one place and their other sports in the other, they were actually members of the Midwestern Collegiate Conference in the mid '90s. And so that is the league that is now rebranded the Horizon League. And so I don't know if that's, we said earlier, I don't know if that's exactly where they'll go. That's one of the rumors, is that they'll take their other sports and put them in that league, but it would make sense. And a lot of reasons, and it matches history for them.
And they were in the Big West for football, and also independent during that time.
The little known fact, my first paying job in college athletics was at the Midwestern Collegiate Conference, and NIU came in as a member with their Olympic sports during the time that I was there. And so I believe maybe they were independent at that time in football, but we were not a football league.
Mhm.
We were a basketball league, and so we had them in all the other sports. You thought I actually did more homework on the NIU departure and looked that up, and instead I just had a good coffee day and remembered something from a very long time ago, Schulze.
That I didn't know that was your first paying
It
job.
was
So
my
that's
first paying
awesome.
job. Yeah, it was.
So obviously that was kind of the more recent news. It was also announced earlier last year in 2024, correct? It was announced that UMass will be joining the MAC, or was that?
About
Okay.
a year ago, give or take.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously UMass will join as a full member of the MAC. It was UMass was football only from 2012 to 13, as well as 2015 to 2016. It will be the 18th full-time MAC member in the history of the MAC.
I feel like I'm back in school again.
I was going to say, those were the Schulze years.
Yeah, they
weren't
were. They were. Some of them, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what can we expect with UMass back in the league?
I'm excited they're a full member. They're a flagship institution. I think it can raise the profile for the Mid-American Conference. Men's basketball there has a storied history, and they had success at the FCS level for football. Being the 13th member and then back to the 12th member, I guess I think 12 is a good even number. So I'm excited for UMass. There will be some difficulties, of course, with travel and things like that, I'm sure, but I do think UMass has the opportunity to raise the profile of the MAC, and I'm excited they're joining.
Yeah, I think from both an athletic and even an academic profile, there's a lot of good and a lot of synergy there. And I think it was about maybe 11 months ago that they made the announcement. And so preparations are underway. They've been participating in conference meetings and, really engaged in wanting to come in and make a contribution to the league right from the beginning. And so we will see them potentially as soon as this fall.
Question about UMass and their participation. How does that process work, getting them into the fold? Is that something that they're in all of a sudden they're in all the meetings? Are they in some of them? What's the discussion like for over the last year with UMass?
I think primarily it's been their leadership. It's I think they've engaged coaches and others in maybe some of the scheduling conversations and the things that are considered for the time of their return and beyond. They're not a voting member yet, but I think it's been really helpful to have their AD in the conversations with us. We try in our room to be more proactive and less reactive. So a lot of times we are talking about things that are going to matter directly to them and they will be part of, and he brings a good perspective, and particularly in certain sports, but all the way around as well. And so it's mostly conversational at this point. We don't have a lot of scheduling information from the conference yet for next year, but there are various models that are being circulated. And certainly as we talk about things like championship sites in the out years and, some of the other broader conference policies, they're an active participant in the conversation for sure.
I think a big question that a lot of people ask is why UMass? Do you have any insight in terms of the decision process to bring UMass into the fold, or how that all kind of played out?
I think our commissioner was looking at the landscape. You mentioned some of the shifts that have happened throughout the country earlier, looking at the landscape, seeing them as an independent, at the time, as an independent FBS program. And as it relates to CFP formula and revenue distribution, there was a timing point at which some of those independent institutions could bring a full amount of money on an institutional allotment into a conference pool, if you will. And so I think that timing was important to our commissioner. I think he was trying to, think about whether or not it made sense for us to pick them up also in the event of a future departure. And frankly, then just, what institutions were available relatively close to our region that might make sense particularly in this case of UMass for the easternmost members of the MAC. I think, the tie to Buffalo probably, was a factor, maybe not an overly weighted factor, but a factor. It made more sense geographically than some of the other independent FBS members at the time that were available, that were well out of region or well beyond reach. And then, as I mentioned in the response to Schulze's point, I do think academically, our presidents are very interested in what they bring as a member. There are components. We talk all the time about the athletic components to the Mid-American Conference, but there's an academic consortium, and there are some other components as well that matter to those who lead universities. And for all those reasons, I think the commissioner led the effort, and the presidents got on board pretty quickly.
So to just kind of put a little bow on UMass here, all sports will be joining in 2025. UMass offers 15 MAC-sponsored sports. Football, obviously, being one of them. Men's and women's basketball, baseball, softball, men's and women's cross country, men's and women's track and field, women's field hockey, soccer, swimming and diving, as well as women's tennis, lacrosse, and a newly added MAC sport in women's rowing. They'll join Delaware, Eastern Michigan, High Point, Temple, and Toledo as the founding members or founding schools, institutions competing in women's rowing starting in 2025. One final note I think is relevant to add to this conversation. I do want to put this out there, that Ohio is the only charter member of the MAC remaining. Did you know that?
Schulze knew that.
Yeah,
I'll bet he knew that.
I did.
Do you know the other schools that were charter members?
Cincinnati.
Correct.
Western Reserve.
Correct. Now Case Western.
Yes.
Yep. Two more.
Wayne State.
Correct.
Or they were not Wayne State then.
They were Wayne, just Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne. Ohio or Michigan?
Ohio.
You can do it, Schulze. I believe.
Oh,
in
no,
you.
sorry, not Ohio. Indiana.
Butler.
Yes. There we go.
Good work, Schulze.
There you go.
Good work.
You
I was about to give you a clue, but
you get your trivia point for the day.
just
Thank you.
one. I feel like that deserves
Yeah,
10.
fair enough.
I don't know what the points lead to, but
that's like a
that was
final.
a tough one.
Yeah, that was the final question of a pub trivia
Yeah.
question. So, any other comments on realignment? I think the last one would be from the fans. I think they would be curious as to Ohio's approach to realignment as things progress.
Well, I think this is what you're asking me on behalf of the fans.
Yeah.
We're really happy in the Mid-American Conference, and there are a lot of efficiencies that come with that. It's not only because we were one of the charter members, but we do have a deep history here. And particularly in this modern era, if you take a look at the other institutions in the state of Ohio, there are a lot of benefits to having such a competitive league with a band of budgets so tight and schools that are so similarly governed. Half of our league is in one state. And so if you take a look at what the other conferences are facing, traveling, coast to coast and across different time zones and in and out of different states with different state laws that apply, particularly as we move into post-house settlement, we just have a lot of commonalities. And so it makes for an opportunity to focus on student experience, competitive games, some fun marketing opportunities, particularly around Maction. And, we have a lot of split MAC households in this region. And so it's fun to see, a Bowling Green sweatshirt walk in with an Ohio sweatshirt. Particularly around, you see this around the holiday weekends when everybody's getting together. I think our conference is still unique in that we have those within region and now within conference rivalries. And so there's a lot to storytelling. There's a lot to history and affinity. And then just from a bottom line, there's a lot of cost effectiveness about this league. And so for us right now, it continues to be, I think, the right place. The factors that would shift that would be, we are an FBS institution. We are committed to that at what we conversationally call the Group of 5 level. So, if that were to ever shift among a majority of the members, that would change the landscape for us. If the MAC were to shift its footprint and stretch so far that those travel efficiencies no longer can, be realized, that is a factor we would consider. We, I think, bring a lot to the MAC. I'm quite biased in that way, but if you take a look at our men's basketball and football exposure, particularly, and then the addition here or there among our Olympic sports, we, I think, have contributed our fair share to the MAC. We're on TV a lot. When we're on TV, we do well. We're very successful in the postseason in football. We're successful against other group of five programs in football, and our ratings are higher as a group of five opponent, even in the quote unquote guarantee games against Power Four opponents. And then, men's basketball. Similarly, we do our part to host as many home games as we can. We meet and exceed the league minimums in that regard, and we also play a better quality schedule than a number of the MAC schools. And so, between the environment that's created, which I know we're going to talk about in another segment later, to what we bring in TV exposure and what we bring in interest nationally, and then we win. So we have contributed in a number of ways to this league, and I think as a result, it's working for us. We're working for them, and we'll continue to be MAC members as long as that is the case.
I think that's a great answer.
Well, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, it's true. It's not anything that's so much eloquent because I'm saying it, but those are all really important factors to a program like ours.
Yeah, and I think the MAC is such a unique conference in that it is still so it's so regional, where so many conferences are kind of, whether it's been a sudden thing or a gradual, have kind of gone away from that a little bit.
It's this is just my opinion, but it's a little mix of modern college athletics and a little bit of old school, that regionalized feel, which is part of what made college athletics so great, is still here. But they're playing on Tuesday night, Wednesday nights, getting that extra exposure, which is a more modern way to look at college athletics. I think it's a great mix of both of those, old school and new school type feel.
Yeah, there's a value in this experience. A lot of the coverage, and particularly the coverage when we talk about the business of college athletics, is on one end or the other. So we're, kind of, if you want to speak in metaphor, sort of in the flyover states in a lot of ways. And maybe our status in college athletics feels like a bit of a flyover status, but it is beneficial to the students who participate. It is beneficial to the communities. It is a valuable experience in the development of leaders and in, what we contribute to our student bodies and to our campus culture. And we can't forget that or be apologetic about that. So I think we are right in our prime space to be forced into a situation where we either have to relegate down from that or overstretch up for that, I think is a bad proposition for us. And so when we talk about placement in college athletics, whether it's, from a financial or economic or commercial or regulatory perspective, I am adamant about that on behalf of our institution. If the MAC were to change, that would change how I would feel about our personally, and I think others around our university would feel the same about our placement with the MAC. And what we've got to do is make sure our conference continues to stretch to maximize those opportunities and not become complacent because we are part throwback jersey, part we'll try the new thing. We've got to be sure that we are being aggressive in not only finding opportunities for exposure, but opportunity for revenues to support the schools in the league.
I think that's a great way to kind of end this conversation. That's not a tremendous amount of depth. We just wanted to make sure that we covered our bases here and talked about the big pieces of news that have come out about the MAC. So with that said, we're going to wrap this segment up. We'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Tim Doyle, and we'll talk a little bit about Peden and the convo and our fan game day experience. For our first guest segment of the show, we have the terrific Tim Doyle with us. Tim is the Associate Athletic Director of Marketing and Fan Engagement And we're going to talk a little bit about our facility upgrades and some game day improvement things that we've adjusted. But to start things off, Tim, why don't you give a quick introduction to the fans and where you've come from and where you're going and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for a while. I started when I was a student at Loyola in Chicago, and I've kind of been all over the place. I said, I've been to a couple of Power Five schools and been to some schools that would be on the lower end of Division One, but I've learned a little something along the way and I've enjoyed each stop. I've been here at Ohio for, I guess, a little over a year and a half, and yeah, I mean, I would say my job here is get people to games and keep them entertained while they're there. That's the short of it.
That was you saved it right there at the end, because I was going to ask a follow-up question of what your day-to-day looks like. So that's good. So I'll kind of start things off, and I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder here, Julie, for a second, and say and hopefully set the two of you up, because we've talked about the approaches that we're taking to our fan experience have really been focused on that fan experience, right? We want to make sure that fans are really getting a good value out of their ticket price or their time that they spend here at our various venues and arenas. And so we've done a number of different things, and we'll kind of run through some of those. But I think one of the most forefront of those changes has been the GoMart Goal Line Patio over at Peden. So Tim, tell us walk us through the advent of that patio and kind of the purpose of it and what we've been doing with it so far.
Yeah, so having the oldest stadium in the MAC, when it was built, there are a lot of things and fan amenities that are top of mind now that were not top of mind in 1930 when it was built. And one of those things is premium spaces. Back in that time, it was how can we cram as many people into a facility as we can. Now, fan interest is changing in some of that, and so it's trying to provide different experiences to people. And so the GoMart Goal Line Patio was created as we kind of looked around the stadium and found some space that we could use. It's situated, just as the name suggests, right along one of the goal lines. You can look right down and kind of be the person who can tell if someone got in the end zone or not. But it's a little bit more of a casual setup. And it offered something this year that we had not really previously offered in the stadium, which is a space where you can gather that inclusive with your ticket is, food, drink, and alcohol. And so that was something newer for us kind of in the general area. And it's really just kind of starting to capitalize on some of the other things that we've had. So in the combo with the Roar Room, we have the Hardwood House, and then last year we started with the Courtside Cats Lounge. And so those are all kind of complementary pieces to that. At football, we have the End Zone Club. So the GoMart Goal Line Patio becomes another iteration of that as we kind of look to continue to build out that portfolio of premium and different offerings for fans.
Yeah, I think it's been a great addition. It's one of those that you kind of look around stadiums across the country, and there always seems to be that kind of like that space that is a little bit open, a little bit differently accessible than the rest of the normal stadium seats. And I think it's been a good addition for Peden.
Yeah, it's been good for us to kind of test it out. We tried it in a couple of different versions last year. Is it good for one big group? Is it good for 4 smaller size groups? And so the way that the deck was constructed, we kind of have the ability to break it up as group demand dictates.
Yeah, I think we need to also give a shout out to Ryan O'Connor and students from the MSA program who staff those areas. It's a space, as Tim has noted, it's a progression that Tim's exactly right about between the Convo and Peden. We have a lot of folks who come to events in both and are looking for an elevated experience. But it's also, in addition to the space, what happens when they get there. And it's parking, it's accessibility, it's food and beverage, it's somebody, it's a lanyard with a credential or a tag for that area. And I think that, driven by those students, they've really had an opportunity to learn about that process from the side of the hosts, if you will. A lot of them have consumed those experiences as fans themselves, and through the MSA program, they get a chance to go see a lot of venues. But we really put that to work, and Ryan does a nice job of leading those students, and we'll continue to expand that program going into next year.
Yeah, and you mentioned food and beverage. That's a good segue into another element of our game day fan experience that we've adjusted and made some changes to. The Chick-fil-A truck has been inside the stadium at a few points in time. Talk a little bit about those changes.
Yeah, so concessions obviously is a big piece of the game day fan experience. Whenever you're somewhere for 3 to 4 hours, inevitably you're going to want to eat or drink something. And so, again, it's really trying to find different ways to be able to serve fans. Not everyone is looking for your traditional concessions food. And so while we have numerous points of sale for that, it's trying to bring in different opportunities, as like Chick-fil-A truck. I'm pretty sure every game they've come to, everything they brought, they sell. So clearly fans are enjoying it and liking it. We also have the Kona Ice truck out there on a regular basis. I swear, whether it's 90 degrees out or on the colder side, people still want their Kona Ice. And so it's, those are both different options that, we normally wouldn't have in a concession stand. We have the Jackie O's trailer at Peden as well, starting to serve our licensed beer. So that's been a good add and another way to just kind of infuse some different elements in there. And so it's really just trying to figure out how we can utilize every inch of Peden Stadium that we can and find those different opportunities. Along with some of those outside vendors working with our concessionaire, we've moved some things around as well to create larger spaces, more points of sale, because ultimately, that's one of the huge benefits with Chick-fil-A, Kona Ice, and Jackie O's is like, it's not just the offering, it's another point of sale for people. And so that way they don't get caught and stuck in a line longer than they need to be.
Yeah, if you noticed, our lines were better this year. Our queuing was better. And then, Tim, I'm going to brag on you. The cashless options and, the self-checkout options for fans who are comfortable with that technology gives, I think, a way for us to not only disperse all of that activity, but also minister to people who know exactly what they want. If you want a bottle of water, if you want something very specific, you can run. And our stadium is aging, as you mentioned, and there are a lot of drawbacks to that. But one of the advantages is it's relatively small, easy to get around. If you know where you're going, you can get out of your seat, get down to one of the venues on either side that allows you to get through, pick out what you want, check yourself out, and get back up to the seat. And you can get that done in a timeout, which is not typical for most college football stadiums. I think you should get credit for bringing that element online this year too.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really good progression. I think we're looking at how we can build that out even more in the future. So, I would say we have prepackaged items at those places, right at those two areas right now, which they were by Gate 1 and Gate 4 last year. And so we're looking at how do we put more items there to try and speed the process up. And really, it really is that easy. You take the items that you want, you put it down on this platform, camera looks at it from above, and it totals it up in no time at all. Like, I think the longest part of that process is people pulling their credit card out and putting it back. Like, it is so quick. And so, that, like, as you said, if you know what you want, or you just want to drink, like, you can be in and out in no time.
Yeah, I think it was a great addition. Are you doing some of that in the combo as well?
Yeah. So we've brought it over to the combo. Combo is, we're still trying to tinker with it and find the right and best way to do it. So far we've had it at the main concession stands as our crowds look to get larger, and as we continue to have more people coming, we might look to move it around and offer it in a different venue, kind of a standalone option similar to what we did at football, where those weren't part of a normal concession stand. They were built up from the ground. And so I think those are areas that we're looking at. Again, just take advantage of some of the square footage that we have to be able to kind of spread things out so not everyone feels like they're crammed in one area.
Yeah, the concessions stands that are built into Peden, or we're not there in the original version of Peden, but they're in very shallow areas, meaning the backside from the counter doesn't give the people who are working the stand a lot of room to move around. And then on the other side of the counter, on the fan side of the counter, our concourses are narrow, and there's not an easy way to change that. So I really appreciate Tim's creativity in coming in and taking the bigger areas where we had more area than we needed for traffic flow and filling them with other points of sale. And I think we've noticed both ourselves, but also in the in our walkarounds during the game, but in the feedback we received from football season. We can't do anything to change the old concession stands, but we've been able to, I think, improve fan experience in that way, and we'll find the way that works in the combo as well.
Yeah, I think for me, if you ever see me not on the fourth floor on a game day, it means something's gone wrong. So I don't get to see outside the stadium.
You're talking about a football game
day.
Yeah,
football game day.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a football game day, if you see me outside of the fourth floor, generally that means something's gone wrong and I'm trying to frantically fix it. But from what I can see, looking out from the fourth floor in our control room there, being able to see how packed that area is across, behind the goal line patio. It's always been, very cool to kind of see it from that, that bird's eye view. And it's just a different, like you said, a different point of sale, different point of contact. And I think it's been really good from my limited view. So I'll add that in. We'll stay inside Peden Stadium for a second. I know I'm kind of messing with our outline that we set out to follow, but
Tim's up for it. He can follow you.
Yeah,
he's ready.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the changes to the fan entrance that we've done. The fan entrance, I said fan entrance. I meant team entrance.
Yeah, so that one's been a lot of fun. Just because when the team takes the field for that last time before the game starts, that's a very big and momentous occasion. And I think people can look around the country and they see how other schools do it, and like some of them have pretty long time ones they've been doing that are iconic. And so what we did is really just try to focus on how we can coordinate all the different elements that happen with those: the cheerleaders running out, the cannon going off, video board assets, the smoke and everything. And so we kind of worked to sync all those up and consciously think through all of that. And so, making it more than just when the team runs out. We have the camera in the team tunnel with the team tunnel lit up in green lights, so fans, see what the players are seeing right before they run out and take the field, which I think is like a really fun and unique angle that people can see. That ties into our intro video that plays on the board. And then, we have the CO2 smoke that we shoot off along with all those other elements that just kind of happen at once and just work to overload the senses. It's really fun to think through all that. It's really fun to test some of those elements. I joke that we could probably sell the opportunity to hit the button and the CO2 go off, because a lot of people seem to want to be the person that does that. But it is really fun. So it's just, looking to continuously add more and more different elements. We only had one game this year where it was darker out, and so we did some of the sparks that for that game as well. And so, just trying to work in all those different elements to, really add some fun and excitement to that, the time that the team takes the field the last time before the game starts.
I think people would be surprised at the amount of coordination that requires. Do you think? Or have there been enough behind the scenes documentary style shows that whoever it is that has to stand in front of the team and say, wait, okay, now go, that's a little bit of like running with the bulls. There's a little bit of an element to that. You got to have somebody who's got a little presence to them. And so that person gets a little bit of airtime every now and then. But actually, I don't know how many people are linked into that process between your folks upstairs, your folks doing social, you guys doing the elements of the run out. It's more than people would I think.
It really is. And I mean, like there's a whole process to it, right? Like we've got somebody who's paying attention to the team, and when they're starting to make their way from the locker room to the tunnel, because we try to sync up when we start playing that video, because not surprisingly, the team does not want to sit around and wait. When they hear that speech from the coach in the locker room and they say, okay, let's go get it, they want to go get it. And so they're not looking to stand around for a long time. And so to your point, you are holding back, 100 guys who want to get on that field.
Going downhill at that particular point.
And and like for them, that's a huge momentous occasion too, right? Like they're jacked up, they're ready to go. And so, we've got someone watching out for them to help cue when that video goes. We've got, Kaylee upstairs calling when to play that and when we're counting down out of the video to start all the other elements. We got someone who's there for telling Rufus, all right, Rufus, go.
Who happens to be on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So it's not just like Rufus.
Right.
It's
It's not Rufus
gigantic.
run. Then we got the cheerleaders running like crazy in front of the motorcycle. And so it's a lot, all for what fans see of 30 to 60 seconds of action, but there's a lot that goes on behind it. We set up the lights, we set up the smoke and all that, before the team runs out. That's an active walkway that fans use to traverse to get to Victory Hill or to the other side where Chick-fil-A truck is, or just there to gather to high five the team as they run out. So there's a lot going on in a little bit of time. And so, it does take a lot of time to prep to get to that point.
I think we need to shout out Tim and Kaylee for not only for all that coordination on game day, but I think what people don't understand is that the Tuesday or Wednesday before each game, everybody piles into the control room on the 4th floor and runs through all of the content, all of the cues, all of the sponsored stuff. So it's not just the Saturday coordination, but it's that Tuesday or Wednesday meeting when there are 15 people sitting in the control room saying, all right, this is when this is going to go. This is when this is going to go. Let's test the intro video. All right, this is when Rufus is riding out on the motorcycle. And a big shout out to you and Kaylee for leading that. It's kind of a chaotic meeting. It's a fun meeting. But
for you, Schulze.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a blast for me. I just get to watch all the videos. But it's really important and a huge part of the game day experience. And it starts, the Tuesday before a game week.
I always joke if people talk about the coaches on the headsets all the time and all the stuff that they're doing. And there's a lot of, I think, especially with all the camera angles we have now in college sports, a lot of focus on what's going on up in the booth and who's, on the headset down below, what's going on. But if they only knew the action is actually with your group and the shouting and the yelling and the do this and the do that, like as much it's packed, not only in the team run out at the beginning, but throughout the game, cramming in the action during timeouts as well. I know that timeouts feel long to our fans watching at home and to your group, but to those of you who do the work on the field and you've got to get 3 groups and 2 videos in and out of a however many minute timeout, that gets a little crazy too. And a lot of times we have students in those roles. So the look on their faces of pure terror at the beginning of the season versus what they're doing at the end of the season is fun to watch too.
And then you add the curveball, and if there's an injury on the field, what do you do in that situation?
Right.
If we score a touchdown coming out of that, then the band's going to play the fight song for a minute. That eats into your time. That we're like, okay, we've got 2.5 minutes to capitalize on everything, and now we have to shuffle and adjust on the fly. So it is pretty crazy, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll throw in the athletics director who may or may not have read the script and may or may not know exactly where she's supposed to be at what time to do what everything, and having to run her and others down as well. So I play my part in the chaos as well. But it's a lot of fun. It's fun energy. And I think, we do a version of that around the other events or the other sports, but not as much with as many people and all the coordination as football game day. So I agree with you, Schulze. Shout out to you, Tim and Kaylee Ellis.
It's the pageantry of it all, right? Whether you want to admit it or not, college sports and particularly college football is all about pageantry, right? And it matters, right? It matters to the student athletes that are out there. It matters to the fans. It matters to the viewers of the game. It matters. It just matters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a big part of the whole day. And I think, we talk about if we ever consider changing those elements, it ends up being a pretty thoughtful debate because of the tradition and the pageantry and what people are used to. And
right.
There's familiarity in that, and knowing, how many debates have we had in the time that I've been here, Schulze? You've been here the entire time I have, about whether or not we should continue on the Harley, or is there another way that Rufus should come in? And but you're right. Jordan, that's what people, appreciate, particularly about college sports and especially about college football.
Yeah, I mean, adding on to that pageantry, right? Like broadcasting has gotten so good now that you can watch just about any game at home, and so like the team entrance as one thing, like that's something that like you really can't get unless you're in the venue, and that's one of the things that I think we pay attention to is like how do we differentiate the game day experience from being able to sit at home and watch the game? How do we just make it a can't miss atmosphere?
That's a really good point. And we're lucky to be on a campus that celebrates that as well. You guys have done a really great job continuing to engage the students at a time where everyone else around the country is fighting to try to get students to show up and then stay. And, we have a lot of student engagement as part of the culture on this campus anyway, regardless of the activity. So we've got a good backdrop for that. But, the band plays into that, all the student groups that come through, the activities you guys do, what do you guys call this sprint with the guy in the green suit and the highlighter suit? There's a name for that you guys, I don't know.
Green wins a lot.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Green wins a lot.
sorry
Yeah.
for not knowing exactly what that is, but people stop what they're doing and watch that to see if the kid from the stands who may or may not have had some pre-gaming activity of his or her own can outrun whoever it is in that obnoxious highlighter green, outfit. And, I know that we didn't generate that. That's an idea that's been around sports for a while, but it's become part of our game day thing. And we just got a crowd and a community that really responds to it. So we're lucky. We're really lucky.
Agree. And I think one of the connections to the rest of the campus is Bobcat Boulevard, which we made some changes to.
Yeah, so that was kind of a space for us to just, we kind of had a blank canvas, right? So it's just north of the Sook Center. It is a space that I would say most everybody walks through as they come to the game, but we really wanted to reimagine it with the idea of some people like to come to games and do the big tailgate and be that person that, is hosting the tailgate. But there's also plenty of other people who are looking for more of a ready-made thing. Another version of the idea is that for a lot of people, the 4 Saturdays might be the only time they come into Athens or engage with or come to campus for the whole year. So how do we package all of that together and keep it nice and close to the stadium and, serve up what is Ohio University, what is Athens, and what is, your stereotypical college football game day? So how do we take all of that and put it into one? And so it was a lot of fun building it out. We have our live radio broadcast that happens there. We have the Ohio Bobcat Club tailgate that happens on Bobcat Boulevard. We have food trucks that we've kind of had revolving door of different ones come in. We try to pay attention to what time the game is at, right? Like, or what the weather is for coffee or ice cream or just food. We've had yard game activities, different activities for kids like caricature artists or face painters. And then, really one of the big things was we had the, 12 or 15 foot LED screen out on the street there that we would broadcast, college game day, other games from around the country, other MAC games that are on before fans come into our game. And so really, if you think about all the elements that are in, your stereotypical tailgate, we just did it on a large scale there for fans to be able to come to and enjoy and, engage with us before they go in the stadium. And, I think that's been something that fans have enjoyed. Our surveys say about a third of our fans went through Bobcat Boulevard this year. And so I'd say that's a pretty strong number for year one. And, we'll continue to look at how we add more things to it. I think we try to pay attention to our surveys and what we can add to it. Later in the season, we started adding bathrooms there because that was a comment that people made on the surveys. Bobcat Boulevard's great, but can you add some bathrooms? Yeah, we can. And so, just constantly trying to learn different things and add all these different elements to Bobcat Boulevard for the fans.
So let's jump across the street into the building that we're currently sitting in, the Convo. I know one of the biggest things that we altered is opening up the concourse ring. Talk us through that decision and what we've adjusted here in the Convo.
Yeah, so really it was how do we, be able to use our concourse better. Our concourse, we have a lot of square footage here, and I think fans a lot of times just kind of scan in and go straight to their seats, but there's a lot more space that we have and a lot of different opportunities that we can offer. And so we changed the entry portion just a little bit so that fans can kind of traverse the entirety of the concourse and go from side to side on it and not kind of have to go around and go into the main seating bowl. But with that, that's allowed us to have additional opportunities for fans to engage in different areas. And by that, I mean, we have our Game Day Spirit merchandise stand right in the main lobby there. They have 2 different setups now versus before they had 1, and it allows fans to just see our merchandise offerings in a little bit better way that's not just immediately passing through there. It's allowed us to be able to be more flexible with Kona Ice as they have their truck in venue. Another one that we've really invested in is our kids zone area. We've got Papa Shots, we've got poster making station. Kids can test their vertical leap. Kids can test how far they can jump. And then we've got about, 10 or so arcade machines that are also there. So just a space for kids to be able to just kind of go nuts, let loose while, a basketball game is going on. The idea off that is like, you see kids at football running around on Victory Hill, passing the ball and everything. So how do we create a version of that? And, that's what the kids zone has become. I mean, I can attest whenever I go through there, kids are going nuts there. I would say they use the Papa Shot less for like the quick fire thing versus how far back they can stand and try and make a shot. But still,
Steph
that's
Curry effect.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, but there's always kids there. Like Tuesday night, Saturday, it's busy, it's crazy. But it's just something else for kids to do so that they don't have to sit in their seat for 2 to 3 hours while everyone is here at the game.
Yeah. See, if it were me, I would be one of those kids sitting on the arcade machines.
Yeah.
That would be where I would be.
Who are you kidding, Jordan? You've been over on those arcade machines.
Yeah, we have plenty of
should have a staff outing
we
over
have
there.
plenty of staff members that do quality control on the
Yeah, there
arcade
you go.
machines.
There you go.
NBA Jam machine works fine. Trust me.
The Top Golf one.
Gold tee.
Yeah, Gold tee. That's the word. You mentioned a little bit ago about the Courtside Club as well. Talk about the continuation of that and the building on the Courtside Club.
Yeah, so similar to what we talked about with the goal line patio, it's how do we create an elevated experience for those that want something a little different in their game day experience. And so we've continued to add more courtside seats, and the courtside lounge was really, the next version of that, so that, again, people aren't confined to just being in their seats for the entirety of their game. They have this ability to go back into the courtside Cats lounge and mingle with other folks in there. There's food and drink in there as well. But other games on the TV, more casual seating in there. And so, it's really just and then the thing that I think is one of the more exciting things is similar to how you might see at some football stadiums or whatnot. Like when the team runs out on the court for the last time, the courtside lounge is right there. Like, I mean, you are right there watching the team take the floor. And so that's a really exciting and cool thing to be like, just to be, that close to the team as they run out on the floor.
Yeah, I think the courtside seats have been around for a few years, but what we heard from that group, who frankly we were asking to invest more than our other season ticket holders, what we are hearing is there's not enough time at halftime or during a timeout or other break in the action to get up to the Roar Room, which at the time was the only other place where we were supporting a donor experience or season ticket holder experience. And that's just by virtue of the design of the venue. Again, it's a venue that's not quite as old as the stadium, but it was designed for a different time and for a different kind of fan experience. So we started talking about how we could create something that was adjacent to the court, but it has elevated to parking, a specific entrance. There's almost a concierge level service to that group. And again, Ryan and that group do a really great job and, have been able to, I think, maximize the opportunity to put as many seats as we can there. And so now we're full and full with interest brewing, for folks who want to get down there as well, which is a great place to be. And probably the next progression of that is taking a look at the War Room and seeing if there are some things that we can do in preparation for next year to refresh that space similarly.
I think that's a perfect segue to talk about plans for the future, both here in the Convo and over at Peden Stadium. What can fans expect when they line up to come into Peden Stadium next year?
Yeah, so next year will be a fun one right off the bat for that first game. But we're looking at building on some of those premium opportunities, and so we have some space in the north end zone that we're looking to develop and add. Again, a different level of entertainment for people. So it'd be outdoor type of cabanas, loge type seating. So kind of sitting at a table like this, so that you can more easily enjoy your food and drink and enjoy the game. And again, I think that is another really fun and unique angle for folks, because I mean, you are right there on the end zone and kind of see all of Peden right there in front of you. And so I think that'll be a really fun and interesting area for people to get in. I think once people begin to see it, they're going to want to be in it even more.
Yeah. And what about here at the Convo? What can folks expect? I know we're still not full through the end of the basketball season this year, but let's take a jump ahead and look. Do we have any changes in mind for next year for the Convo?
Yeah, so I think for the Convo, it's really just kind of continuing to build on a lot of things that we have done. We've done some things not just with men's basketball, but some of our Olympic sports as well: volleyball, women's basketball, and wrestling. We added some tiered seating options. So again, trying to serve fans in a broader way. So we didn't change our entry level ticket price, but we added reserve seats, which are in the sections immediately behind the team benches in sections 1 through 4. And then for all three of those sports, we either added or expanded courtside options there. And so, that was those were really successful for us, especially with women's basketball and volleyball. Those courtside seats sold out. And so there'll be an opportunity, I think, for us to look to continue to add to that, so that more people can, sit courtside. And that's a really fun, awesome, and unique experience for people.
Yeah, I think especially for those sports, the people who invest in all of our sports are committed to the experience, not only that they have as fans, but also the student athletes, but especially when you get into the Olympic sports, there's a high level of affinity. So to be able to go to wrestling and be down on the floor, it's pretty cool. If you're into that, it's really cool. It's pretty cool for anyone, but for people who, support that sport, that's a whole new vantage point that hasn't been available. And then likewise, as you mentioned, for volleyball and for women's basketball, I think we'll see what the fan surveys say coming out of basketball. There are some other things that we're kind of kicking around as ideas, but the things that have worked most successfully for us have been the concepts that have responded to feedback from our fans directly. And so believe me, we can sit around and come up with a lot of fun ideas. But not all of them are great ideas, and not all of them are good ideas for our fans, but we can come up with some fun stuff. But I think we've continued to increase our engagement. The fan surveys are one way. We're doing focus groups within the Ohio Bobcat Club. Ryan and his group have done specific targeted focus groups to people we think might be interested in the GoMark Goal Line Patio, either as a group experience or in elevated premium experiences. And again, our best ideas and changes come from that feedback directly. Would you say, Tim?
Yeah, no, I would agree. And, I think as we have continued to grow as a department and, our fan base has continued to grow, when I look back on some information, we've got about 50% more football season ticket account holders last year than we did in 2019. So that's a pretty great growth. And so, with that, I think we are bringing on some different opportunities to engage with that. So we're bringing on Learfield Amplify. That is a ticket sales team. And so for us, that means a few things. So one, it'll allow our fans to it'll allow them to be able to sell more tickets, but it'll also create a better opportunity for our fans to engage with them. They'll be able to talk on the phone, meet with them, see different opportunities that we have available in the stadium, and then provide a higher level of customer service. So as I said, as we continue to grow, that's going to be a needed thing so that we can maintain those strong relationships that we have with our fans.
Yeah, I think the other thing that Amplify staff will do will give us an opportunity to reach beyond. We have not done a lot of outbound sales work, really ever, but particularly in the years, since I've arrived, and we've been trying to keep records a little bit more carefully. And the relationship that Tim's talking about is important for our existing account holders, but it is also to try to get other individuals from the surrounding communities and from the Columbus area, and then as we can from other areas that are targets for our alumni population. We just have not had the bandwidth as a staff through a primarily student driven sales team and a primarily renewal focused sales team over the last several years. And so bringing them on as a partner will give us an opportunity to do that without expanding our overhead, which is really important to us, and provide a more consistent, I think, opportunity for fans who want to engage. Not everybody these days wants to know the person on the other end of the phone. They want to be very efficient and do things online or what have you, and be done with no problems. They will help us with that quality control as well. But we're looking forward to being able to elevate our sales experience through that. And, the other thing I think is, in addition to the North End Zone, is you'll see for those who are OBC members, some recalibration of the benefits associated with their membership, some changes to End Zone Club access, some opportunities that they are developing that also come from feedback from their members, particularly around pregame events and that sort of thing. We haven't talked about tailgating much, but I have to tell you, I was really impressed with our fans and their tailgating game this year. We had a couple of days, as we typically do each year, where we have some programming before the game. So we're around earlier in the morning, groups that are meeting and events we're hosting and whatnot. And I was surprised at how early we were out tailgating, and not so much at the passion with which we were tailgating once we were out. That is pretty consistent and good. But the number of folks who are out tailgating across a variety of lots has really picked up over the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, Julie, you talked about the consistency and the passion with which our fans tailgate and attend our games. I want to turn it to Scholze because he's, I think, the most uniquely qualified of the people here, because he's been here actually the longest out of everyone here at this table. So talk about
it's a lot of pressure for whatever's coming.
It is a lot of pressure.
Talk about the fans here and their consistency and their passion to support our programs.
I mean, the fans are incredible, just absolutely incredible. And they have supported us. I think of that first game coming out of the pandemic and the amazing crowd that was at that first game. And it never waned. It's been consistent. We have a consistent midweek crowd. We have a consistent Saturday crowd. We have a consistent student crowd. I mean, and they're loud. Coaches have talked about the home field advantage. We've lost one home game in 3 years in football, and just phenomenal. I mean, we had 1,000 students here for a basketball game on a Tuesday night 2 weeks ago. That's not something you don't see everywhere in the Mid-American Conference, and the fact that we have that here, we're just so lucky. And I know. I've been here longer than Julie, and I've seen the points of emphasis, and one of them is fan experience. And so I want to ask you, why has fan experience been so important to you as your time as athletics director?
Well, I think we could always do more, but I am proud of the work that we've done, particularly since the 2021 season. It's important because of the passion you've described and because of the loyalty that we have, but also because it's part of what we do and what we should give to our community. And so Tim mentioned at the top of this segment, his job and his unit. It is specifically designed not only to focus on marketing, which is the model we had before, but also to engage our fans and to think. He's going to smile when he hears this, because I say this a lot, to think about what the fan experience is from the time they reach out to us to buy the ticket to the day they leave their home to their approach to our community or to our venues, to parking, to entry, to all the components we've talked about throughout the segment that I know you guys are working hard on, and to the time they wrap up and go home afterward. And it's that entire loop. And so now we have a unit that is focused specifically on that with the individuals that work with him. And it's been really important, and we've invested a lot in it and pushed ourselves to improve. We could take our group for granted, but we don't. Our teams have helped. They are phenomenal at home. You know, our winning record at home across all of our sports is really strong, but particularly across football and men's basketball, which is, you know, everyone knows drives a lot of the revenue for us. So it has been a focus. You've seen we've talked about broadcast as a focus and digital strategies, and this last year particularly, and the investment in Tim and the unit that he's built. We've really focused on fan experience, and I appreciate the work that you guys have done in order to improve it for everyone.
Yeah, no, I mean it's been really fun and exciting. I think the time that I've been here, everything has kind of been working and building. I think the game that everyone's had circled on their calendar is coming up,
Yeah.
right? As we move into 2025 season, I think we've all been looking forward to having West Virginia, a Power 4 conference team at home in Peden. It should create the most insane and raucous atmosphere that we've probably had in Peden in quite some time. I know the Miami games get really big. I know we've had great homecoming games, but like think like this West Virginia game is just going to raise the bar to a new level. And I feel like all the things that we've been investing time and resources in the fan experience and all the different team entrances, concessions, all that has been building to how do we make sure we just absolutely nail, you know, this game, because it's going to be probably one of the largest crowds Peden Stadium has ever seen.
Yeah, I think that's right. And probably we'll get all of our opponents and dates from the MAC here in, you know, what, a couple months, about a month actually at this point as we record. And so I think we're anticipating a great slate for next year. And the West Virginia game is certainly going to be a great home opener. We will have some more amenities. We will have the North End Zone premium area, and we'll continue to focus on the fan experience. We are going to recalibrate tickets. And so for the first time since 2018, I believe, is the last time that we took a look at this ticket structure throughout Peden Stadium. So we've studied that quite a bit. We have put off changing ticket prices for football for a few years, despite the success and despite the other work that we put into the fan experience, because we felt like we needed to do our part first in order to build an experience from beginning to end that would make sense for our fans to want to continue to invest more in. And so more will come later this month. We'll be rolling out more information, and particularly the different levels of tickets and how that will be stratified. But it will continue to give an entry point for our fans and our season ticket holders that is among the most accessible in the MAC and is accessible relative to the experiences here and around Athens and Athens County for those who live here close by. So we'll have quite a range of opportunities to get into the stadium for that West Virginia game and beyond next season.
I think that's a great point to kind of wrap things up on. Is there anything else that we missed or glossed over in terms of our game day experience for either Peden or here in the Convo?
That's a good one for Tim. Are you going to ask me about helicopters landing on the football field? Or are we going to do that offline?
Yeah, we can wait on that.
Did you see the way his eyes lit up? He's got
excited
big
about
dreams
that.
and
Yeah.
big plans. Yeah, that's right. Tim, thank you for all the work you and your unit do. It's really been a great addition to have you on the staff, and please extend our appreciation to Javier and to Gavin and Kaylee as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's been great, and look forward to continuing to build this fan experience for years to come.
As we move into our final segment of the day, this is going to be a question and answer. So Julie, we reached out to some fans via social media and got some questions that will be directed at you. We'll try and keep this brief. Some of these are some pretty in-depth questions, but we want to make sure that we're respectful of your time and our fans' time. We don't want to keep them sitting here for hours on end, even though I know we could talk for hours on end about all this stuff.
We could.
So
I think Jordan's trying to tell me to be brief. I think that was very friendly, very friendly coaching to keep my words to be concise. And I need that sometimes. So that's good. That's good.
Hey,
I will.
I can use that same advice myself.
No,
so.
I happily accept it. Okay, what do we have?
This question comes from TG. Do we have any plans to improve the PA system at Peden Stadium?
Good question and good point. We don't have immediate plans to replace the PA system. Jordan can tell you, constantly working with sound engineers to try to improve what we can with a very antiquated system. And honestly, we have some of the same issues in the Convocation Center as well. 2 older venues that are not particularly wired or laid out in a way that you would want given today's technology. I hope for both of those venues in the future, in a facilities master plan, there's an opportunity to address some of the technology needs, and the sound in both venues would definitely be at the top of that list.
That's a really concise way to say it.
Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. I'll try to do the same with this one.
And now I feel like I'm giving you directions, and that's not what I want to do.
I am coachable. I'm a lot of things, but would you agree? Am I coachable? I'm
Yeah,
coachable.
yeah.
Okay. Go for it.
Second question. How does Ohio, this is from Steve, by the way, how does Ohio compete in the transfer era? And I'm going to actually lump a third question in that because I think these two are very closely intertwined.
Okay.
From Sam, how does Ohio compete in the NIL era? So I think those are two closely intertwined questions.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think that is evolving. We have had success in the transfer portal and NIL eras, which you're right, are running concurrently, by, I think, focusing on culture, by continuing to be committed to our student athletes and their experience, frankly, by being winning programs. Both our men's basketball program and our football program are the 2 that come to mind as both benefiting from and losing great talent to the transfer portal. Last year's football success is a real testament to that coaching staff and their ability to maintain their standards and maintain a culture and bring players in who could contribute to that. So strategically, I think the coaches are responding as well as they can to a fluid environment. We will need more resources to be able to keep up. And, we have plans to work toward generating that, and we will need more efficiencies. One of the things we've always been really good at is a return on investment and an efficient investment, and also a return on energy, if you will, that we invest. And we work smart around this department and have gotten better at working smarter. And we work hard as well, but working smarter. We're going to have to continue to do that. We just don't have the commercial market to support the number of NIL opportunities here where we are locally, as say, our counterparts do, even throughout the Mid-American Conference. What we do have is a very loyal and passionate fan base and people who are interested in helping as they can. And so even this year, as we are moving toward an environment that allows us to be more directly involved with NIL deals, our Learfield partners are bringing student athletes to the table. We talked about this a little bit in the earlier segment. We're doing a lot more in that space. And as we do, I think the value of those opportunities for our student athletes will go up. Also, what we're seeing is our sponsors needed a few examples to see of how it could work. And now that they have that, the juices are flowing, and we're seeing a lot more interest in that way on the NIL front. And then, of course, we'll supplement that with the opportunity to bring some of the fundraising for NIL in-house so that we can be more directly involved in those opportunities for student athletes. We will chase our direct competitors, our group of 5 competitors, as opposed to trying to chase Power 4 competitors. And if we do that, I really like our odds, our value proposition in the group of 5 space, and using group of 5, both the MAC, but even, some of our group of 5 powers, particularly in football, we are positioned really well to continue to be successful there.
That was a really good answer. That was awesome.
Thank you, Shulzy.
This is from one of our students, Katie. She wants to know what your first job was, which you've already told us.
Oh, yeah, I did give that up in the other segment.
She also wanted to know, this is a broad question, how did you become an athletics director?
Oh, that is a longer one. I think One of the things that's really important is working hard at whatever job you have today to prepare for whatever opportunity may come along tomorrow. And I think one of the ways I became an athletics director was by spending a lot of years doing that and not so much worrying about the outcome, but worrying about getting better each day in the job I had and working hard and learning from it and learning from and with my colleagues and learning, how to work as a member of a team and then learning how to take the responsibility of leadership when it was given to me. And so I think that's how you prepare. And unless you put that time in to prepare, without that, you're not going to get the opportunities. I happen to have a chance to interview with a university who was looking for the kind of contributions that I can make as an athletics director at the time the job was available. I think that's also really important, probably for any job, especially with these leadership roles. We have a tendency to kind of think about what it is we want when we make the change. And sometimes that means really great people who have also prepared and are talented aren't considered or don't get the job. Doesn't mean they couldn't be good in it. But it just may be that their strengths lie towards something that isn't exactly what the organization was looking for at the time. And so that alignment happened to work out for me here at Ohio. And I'm very appreciative of the opportunity, very appreciative of the chance that Ohio took on me at the time, and have, worked hard every day to try to live up to the opportunity that's been given.
I think we got one more question, right, Schulze?
Yeah, this is from Carl. Will we ever see the attack cat on a football helmet?
Oh, I'm going to kick this one to our associate AD for digital strategies and brand development, because he has particularly strong feelings on this issue.
I do.
This is a great question.
So,
I can't wait for your answer.
So, Carl,
I love this question.
I think it would look cool. There's a but coming, though. Not to get too into the branding process, but the helmet really is the showcase piece. And I think it's very important for it to have the Arch Ohio on the helmet. It is both our logo and our name. It is nationally recognizable. And I think the attack hat is nationally recognizable as well. But it is not Ohio. And I think the word Ohio has so much value and so much TV time on that football helmet that I really would like to keep Arch Ohio. Now we can do green, white, black, maybe put some bricks in it. But that Arch Ohio, I think, is really, really valuable, and it's a really important piece of our brand. And to be able to showcase that Arch Ohio off on national television night in and night out is super, super important. So I am pro Arch Ohio. Never say never. They've snuck a paw print in on me every once in a while.
We did get the attack cat on our playing surfaces.
Yeah,
which was a big get for the ongoing department. What I appreciate about this is your commitment to brand equity, which is really important. It's part of the reason why we put it into an existing job description, because there is value in those marks. And so I'm giving you a hard time by kicking you the question, but I appreciate exactly what you're saying. And the attack cat is a lot of fun, and particularly for fans of a certain range of time and beyond that they were on campus, it means a lot and signifies a lot. And so we do try to find ways to work it in. But I appreciate your point about the helmets.
It's a showcase piece.
Yeah.
Attack hat will be on the jerseys.
Oh, that's a big promise.
That is a big promise. I'm not sure I should have said that, but that's okay.
Well, we're going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
We're going to find Carl's going to hold you to it also. That's a great question.
Well, that does it for our show today. Of course, I want to thank Julie for joining us. Thank you, Mike, for joining us as well. Stick around. Hopefully you enjoyed. This will be back. We got to find the time to get everybody that's needed in a room. That's always the struggle working in athletics, is finding the time to get everybody in the same room at the same time. But this will be back, and we'll cover some more topics and have a good old conversation. So thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.